This is Steve Baumgartner, Baumgartner Ranch, and I'm going to take you through my 1930 Ford Model A front bearing grease packing. This is the first time I've ever done this, so I probably have made a few mistakes, but there aren't very many videos out there on how to do this. This diagram came out of the Red Volume 1 for Model A maintenance. I decided to use the old lug wrench that came with the vehicle. It seemed to be the best one. I had to be really careful on not to scratch the paint on the wheel because it's really hard to get my touch-up paint and get it to last as long. So trying to be really careful. And what I didn't realize, I actually forgot about it. There's these little spacers or protectors underneath the lug nuts that protect the paint on the wheel. Kind of a great idea. You'll see them fall off as I take a couple of these lug nuts off. Now, I used this air wrench here just to get them off. I put the tape around there, not to scratch. I took them off this way, but I did not put them on this way. I just wanted to play with the tool. You don't get to use it all that often. So you'll see when I move the wheel off that these little, I forgot what they call them, but the little spacers that keep the paint from getting nicked. There they go. Luckily I found them all. So, like I said, I had never done this before. And I had to buy the kit to put the grease into the bearings. I saw how it was done by putting in by hand. Put the glob of grease in your hand and then smash the bearings on there. I didn't like that. It just seemed really messy and awkward. And then I saw the one where you use the grease gun with the Zert fitting. I tried that and I was like, oh, this is taking forever. Now a friend of mine, he mentioned that if you have the kind that pneumatically pushes it through, works out real great. Well, I don't have one of those and most people probably don't. So I opted for the kind you actually push on. You'll see it here in a minute. And opted for the vise option. That worked awesome. And this way I can keep it in that container. Cap it off so it doesn't get dirty and store it away. So that works out great for me. Now I pulled this off and like I said, I've never done this before. I knew there are bearings behind there, so I kind of went slow, so if anything fell off at least I could see where it came from. But it actually turned out to be pretty simple. I took the front bearing off and then you'll see that I get the back bearing off, cleaned them up. I did find some material, some hard stuff. I guess it was dirt, because when I looked through everything, I didn't see anything that was chipped or degraded. So I guess some dirt or brake pieces got in there. So I cleaned all that up, and then no damage to the actual bearing. So that worked out really well. The job was actually a lot easier than I had anticipated. It's just the fear factor of not doing this before, and really couldn't get anybody to respond in the club accurately enough. So they always said refer to the book. So I did, and I don't call anymore. That's just the way the club goes. So then here you go. While I had the wheel off working on the wheel bearings, I decided I would go ahead and grease up as much as I could the steering area. So I think I found like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You'll see that I'm going to do the front ones. There's also one in the back, which I don't have on the video. You know, I don't like taking the tire or the wheel off and on. Take a chance at nicking the paint on the wheel. Thought, well, while I have it off, I'll just go ahead and fill these up. Now, before I did this, I wiped everything off so I didn't push dirt into the fittings. And then when I
I got all done, I also cleaned off everything. But what I was taught is put enough in where you see it squeeze out and you see the new color of the grease, get out all the old stuff. So that's the way I was taught to do it. And like I said, I thought this was a great opportunity for that. And
So here's the grease packer for the bearings. The hardest part about this whole thing was getting that plunger out. That was really tough. Like I said, if I had that pneumatic grease device, I could have pumped that out real fast, but didn't. So I tried this method, and I found it kind of hard and awkward, and I didn't really like it. So I remember what another friend of mine said, put it in the vise and see how that works. You can go through them really fast. So on this one, it came through, and the videos I saw said, make sure it squirts out like that, and then take it out, and then take the extra grease and put it on the outside to get it into those crevices. And that should be adequate for the bearing. So that I did. And here's the vise version. This one was awesome. I could do this one all day long. You can see it squeezing out. Simple. That worked out great. That was for the smaller front bearing. So you can see I'm pointing out that it did squeeze through very well. Alright, so I didn't get the picture of it putting it into the hub, but I did put some of the videos I watched. It said you don't have to glob it on here. I know people do. It was when I pulled it off. There was so much grease on there on that spindle. It was crazy. It'll never be touched. So they recommend doing just this, getting just a little bit in there and getting enough so things slide on. And it protects the gear. You can see it got a little water on there at some point. Next time I do this, I'll probably clean that up. I was just trying to focus on getting this back together properly. So I dropped the bearing into the hub, and you'll see I'm just going to slide that right on. I wasn't thinking. I should have gotten part of the video dropping it in the hub. I think you got the idea. Went on real nice. Had to hold it to get that front bearing in, which was simple. No damage on any of it. So I was really happy about that. So spun it around, just kind of seat it a little bit, and then put the lock washer on. I guess that's what they call it. So, watching the videos, I watched many of them and how to tighten this. It said, make it snug at first, turn the hub around, get it to seat a little better, and then back it off. And then put the key in. Now you can see, I forgot where the hole was. So I get this all tightened up. Or snug, not really tight. Make sure it spun fairly easily. Yeah, I forgot where the hole was. Dang. Now I gotta take the whole thing off again, figure out where the hole is. And it was going horizontal. I assume that it could be in any position. I don't know. If it's, maybe it's always horizontal. I don't know. I'll see when I take the other ones off. So, put it back on. Now that I knew where it was, I can go back to that same process of making it snug, backing it off, and then putting the key in. They said loose is better than tight. I guess if you put too much bind on the bearing, it can actually cause damage. I meant to put new cotter keys in, but didn't have any. So luckily I didn't break the other ones. Get that going for next time. So that actually completed the front left wheel bearing grease packing. Everything's spinning good. I think what I'll do when I get all done is I'm going to follow the routine for adjusting the brakes. That is actually quite involved. A couple tools involved, but we'll go through that later. I was just pretty happy to complete this one. So I always put a little grease on the threads because these are or can have a tendency to get wet and rust, so this kind of keeps them from rusting. And just every time I drive, you know, I have a checklist that I go through. I check the oil level, I check the water level. I always tighten the lug nuts a little bit, just to make sure nothing loosened up since my last driving. And just a few other things that I check just to make sure that everything's all together. Make sure the battery's all charged up. And gas, of course. So I went back for the tire. And at this point, it's just a matter of mounting it back on, trying not to cause damage, putting the lug nuts back on, and that's pretty much about it. Now, I have not driven the vehicle all summer. It's not because it's hot to drive, because once you're moving, it's not that bad. But when you get somewhere, it's hotter than hell, and it's just not fun. I want to be able to go to like a winery and sit down and enjoy the outdoors. I don't want to have to sit there and sweat to death and then have to drive an hour back home. I mean, it's just miserable. So I'm kind of looking forward to fall, winter, and spring. Those are my 3 seasons. Summer, I just do a lot of indoor stuff like maintenance on the vehicle, maintenance on the house, you know, other stuff like that. So I'll put a little fast gear here. Like I said, this went a lot easier than I thought it was. It's just all the research took a long time, making sure that I did it correctly. You know, everything is not mentioned, it can't be. But, you know, I can pretty much follow directions as long as the directions are correct. Now, before I take this out driving again, I'll probably check them. And after I do a ride around the neighborhood, I'll check them again, make sure that they stay tight enough. And check the brakes, make sure that they're okay. But I didn't really mess with the brakes, so really shouldn't have a problem there. Next time, you'll see that I'm going to work on the rear bearing grease packing. I need to order a tool for that. So I'll talk to you guys later, and thanks for joining. Appreciate it.